Hello everyone. If you're watching this video, then you probably want to learn more about Carbon Aware Starter. So for the scope of this video, what we'll do is we'll learn more about Carbon Aware Starter, the endpoints it exposes, and how do we monitor the values of those endpoints on the Grafana dashboard. So what we'll do is we'll have a Spring Boot app. We'll add the Carbon Aware Starter as a dependency. What this Carbon Aware Starter would do is it would pull in the emission information from the Carbon Aware SDK. It would pull in some additional information like the CPU usage, the memory usage, and the disk usages. And then it will do some computation, add the embodied emissions value, and export the matrices, the SCI score, and the emissions to the Prometheus or the Grafana dashboard. Next, we'll head over to IntelliJ and see how to use the Carbon Aware Starter in action. I'll provide the link to the GitHub repo in the description below. All we need to do is clone and build the Carbon Aware Starter and add it as a dependency to your Spring Boot application. Next, you need to configure some additional properties which are required by the starter. So the properties are Spring Carbon Aware Enable, which needs to be true to start the Carbon Aware Starter. Then the endpoint, which would kind of point to the SDK endpoint, Carbon Aware SDK endpoint, and location, which would kind of give us the location or for which we want to monitor for the emission values. The next thing we'll need to do is we will definitely have a doc compose file wherein we'll add the build and everything, and we'll create an environment file. And in the environment, we'll definitely add this as a property, the emissions location and the endpoint as well. In the .env file, so what we've done for this is we've created an env file and we have a .env. What we'll do is we'll add the emissions location which we want to monitor. So I want to monitor Australia East first. There are two additional information that we also need to put in over here. The what time username and what time password. I'm not adding this just for security purpose. So once we do this and we hit the command docker compose up -d --build, we'll be able to see two endpoints that has been exposed by this Carbon Aware Starter. So one endpoint is carbon emissions, which gives us the carbon emissions for that location. And the other one is the software carbon intensity endpoint or the SCI endpoint, which gives us the SCI score of our application. So it kind of shows us the energy consumption, the marginal emissions, the avoided emissions. And using all these values, what it does is it calculates the software carbon intensity. The next thing that it does also is it exports the SCI score and the emission score both to the Prometheus endpoint. So we'll head over to the Grafana dashboard next. And on the Grafana dashboard, what we can see is we've added two panels. One is for SCI and another is for emissions. For emissions, we can see the emissions have slightly gone up for this Australia East location. And there is a fluctuation in the SCI score because it depends on a lot of parameters. And what we'll do next is we'll move over to another location where the carbon emissions is a little less and see how this impacts the SCI score and how we can monitor the same. So what I'll do is I'll change this location from Australia East to West US 2. We'll monitor for some time, we'll come back and we'll see how the graphs changes and how we can read the data and how we can make sense out of it. All right, now when we are back, we can see the emissions have definitely gone down from 830 to somewhere in the region of 562. But if I look at the SCI score, I can see a spike at the start of the application. This is probably because more energy was drawn at the start of the application because the CPU usage and the memory usage went up because a lot of beans and everything were getting created. But if we look at the values in general, the values which were in the region of 1600, 1700 has significantly gone down to somewhere around 990, 805, 869, 800 to 900 region. There has been a certain spike in between. Again, it went down. And yeah, so next what we can do is we can place all our alerting on it and take some decisions whenever required on this SCI score. So that's all from the demo. Thank you.